Let's talk today about goal setting and about achieving goals, sustainable goal, because it's an important part. And so it's a subject that goes for a lot of people too who are struggling with their goals and who feels like they always are chasing another goal and never feels truly satisfied with their goals. And it's a really interesting topic. So let's discuss about that. There's a lot of channels about productivity and how to be more productive and how to set smart goals and how to be, efficient and performative and all that stuff. And that, you have to follow the right steps to achieve a goal, when a lot of the time a goal is something that is uncovering itself. And I think that's something that most people don't maybe know about or integrate or talk about, is that a goal is never set in stone, and most of the time the goal that you set for yourself at the beginning of your journey to get there will likely change through actually achieving that goal, because a goal is not something that is set in place. It is attached to a lot of different values, to the season you're in, to what you want in life, and to the vision that you have of life and what is good or what is not good, and to your beliefs and all that stuff. And so there's a lot of things that are tied to a goal, that when you are actually trying to achieve a goal, you will have those things that may change, or that may, new information that you may uncover and be like, oh, okay, now that I have this information, I know that my goal is not sustainable and maybe we can twist it and all that stuff. And it's easy to get afraid to actually change your goal and to, make a little bit of twists and things like that. And so it's an important discussion to have in order for us to actually feel better about goal setting and not feeling like we are trapped when we are setting a goal. Because of course, since we were little, we've had this goal of, graduating and then getting a certain type of job and then doing this type of thing and then getting kids and all that stuff. And so it was always about, the timestamp thing. And so when you grow up, the timestamp kind of become different from what you thought it would be, because you are evolving. The needs that you have and the desires that you have may change. The people that you are with may also be different, and so the environment could be different. The type of thoughts and beliefs that you have could be different, which makes the timestamps of your goal or your goals different. And so this is when doubt can happen, and we're like, okay, but I've had this goal for so long that now I don't know what to do. And this is something that I see a lot with people who are overachievers, or with people who have a very specific goal that they've lived for so long for. So as an example, I don't know if you've watched the past episode of Drag Race, the season, I don't know what season it is, and this is the last season. And so at some point, one of the drag queen, Jules Sparkles, she has to do an interview, and one of the other drag queen asks her, what do you want in 5 years? And so at this moment, Jules is like, I have no idea. I have no idea what I want in 5 years. And so it's so interesting because it happens a lot. And so what she said was, Drag Race was my goal for so long that now that I'm here, I actually have no idea what I want now, and I have absolutely no idea what's my next step. And this is something that can happen a lot. Either it is you've wanted to win a championship and you did, you wanted a certain type of diploma and you wanted a business that was working well for you and it worked, you wanted a certain type of relationship and you've had, you wanted a baby or whatever it is. Now that you've had it, since you've lived so much for this goal in particular, it can be tricky to kind of be in this position of, I've never even thought about what will happen next, and now that I have this thing, because most people think that sometimes, when their goals is achieved, their lives is going to change. But if we take as an example the example of RuPaul Drag Race, until the season actually launches, your life doesn't really change. And it is the same with most people, dealing with reality TV. They go from doing this reality show and then for months not being known or whatever, and then when the show actually hits, this is the moment when they have their big moment, they are recognized and all that stuff. And so sometimes the moment between the two of them can feel awkward, and the moment between you actually getting recognized and all that stuff can feel very overwhelming, because it all comes at the same time in a big wave. And so those are things where, when we live for a goal for so long and we are achieving it, it's kind of tricky to also be living life after that this goal has been achieved, because either your life didn't change as much, and so you're kind of frustrated and kind of well, okay, I'm getting up, I feel the same, I'm living the same life, and it can feel kind of weird. And sometimes it can be the total opposite of, oh my god, my life literally changed in a second, and I don't know how to adapt to this new life and to this new desires that I have and all that stuff. And so this is where I love to be able to work with people who are going through those types of things, because this is so niche, but this is also something that you can feel like, when you got your big promotion or when you have a new partner or whatever, like sometimes it's like things are changing pretty quickly and sometimes things are changing like taking more time. But the thing is that, control is always an illusion. And so the moment that we feel like we are losing control is the moment that it can feel very overwhelming. As an example, you don't control how people think of you. And so when you get to a certain place where a lot of people recognize you, a lot of people have a judgment or an opinion on you, this can be pretty overwhelming because, of course, well, I don't control that. And so how do I do? Because it's pretty uncomfortable. And so those are things that, sometimes you want to goal so much, but when it actually happens, it's like, oh, it's different than I thought, because you're not able to control every step of the way to getting to that goal, but also the results of that goal. Because for me, a goal is just like something we fixate on, but it always has repercussions. Like, of course, if you have a monetary goal, if you hit this monetary goal, it may have repercussions on your life. If you have a relationship goal, it may have repercussions on your life too. And so sometimes there are repercussions that you are not aware that could happen. And so if every step of the way you were like, oh, I need to control what happens and I need that goal to be like that and stuff, then when it happens and your whole life depends on that, you can get kind of like disappointed because you're like, oh, I thought it was all this glamorous and wonderful goal, and now that I'm here, I see all the responsibility that happens with it. All the time when I make a video like that, the important part is never to be like, don't chase a goal, don't be someone who likes to goal set, don't be someone who's ambitious and all that stuff. Never. It's always about understand that there's polarities and nuances into getting what we want and achieving what we want, instead of always being like, oh my god, everything will be perfect. Because then this is when you kind of become delusional, which for some people, they love this feeling of being delusional, but sometimes when they actually hit that goal and it's not how they wanted it to be in their delusion, then they kind of fall back into this thing of lose their identities. When you've had this identity of like, this is my goal and this is everything that I need to achieve in life and my identity needs to be tied to that, then it can be kind of tricky to be like, how do I navigate the after goal? Because a lot of time we talk about, how to goal set and go to that goal. This is not the trickiest part. It's to actually, how can we maintain that goal? How can we maintain the results of the goal? And how can we be someone who can, again, maintain this kind of results and this kind of desires? And the thing is that some people put their happiness so much on hold until they've reached that goal, that when that goal actually happened and they just go back to their normal life, they kind of feel like they don't deserve it. They kind of feel like, they've done all of that just to get up in the morning and still feel, burnt out, or still feel, unhappy about life or frustrated or whatever. And when your life do change, and when things do change and they change radically, it can be this feeling of, I don't know if I deserve it. I don't know if this is the right time for me. Maybe it's not the exact right time. Like sometimes you have like this big role. I always love to, use examples of actors, because those are people that working with them is very interesting, because you can see that they have this whole identity that they need to tie as an actor to, actually getting what they want. And so as an example, it can be, getting that role that you wanted for so long, and now that you have it, it's like, yeah, but am I ready for this? Am I really ready to, become this big actor on this big, TV show or whatever? Or it can be, you getting the promotion that you wanted, and now that you had this promotion, it's like, well, am I ready to have this type of leadership? Am I ready to, manage all those people and all that stuff? Like same thing with, wanting to become maybe a YouTuber or something like that. And it's like, now that I've had like thousands of people watching me, like I have the responsibility of being good enough for them and all that stuff. And so those are scary things that we don't always think about, but it's interesting when we think about them, how it can both be scary and both be like, okay, now that I've known about this, I'm able to also prepare myself, or, feel like, yeah, I do deserve to get that success. Like those are the proof that I deserve to be here, or that I want to be here. It's not always about deserving. It's also about, I'm here, now that I'm here, like, let's exploit that. There's a lot of different ways of feeling when you are achieving a goal, but the thing about goals is that it's evolving a lot, and this is the fun part, but this is also the part that most people leave behind and kind of like don't talk about, is the fact that sometimes a goal is something that you cannot achieve because it doesn't make sense to who you are and to who you really want to be and to your values, and also to the evolution of a goal. So as an example, a goal that I get a lot is I want to be, someone who feels confident, and I want to be successful and all that stuff, but it doesn't mean anything. Being successful doesn't mean anything. Having success means a lot of things and nothing at the same time. It depends on where you are and who you are and what you want, all that stuff. And so we have to narrow it down to what does it mean to be successful, and when would you know that you are successful, but also when it comes to the evolution of success, because success isn't something like, it's not a point in the end. Like it's it's not something that ends. Success could be something that you have for maybe a month or maybe a day or maybe 10 years, but we don't know that unless we are actually letting go of this control of having this type of success or whatever. Like, success is an evolution, just like being confident is an evolution. Sometimes you are successful, sometimes you're not. Sometimes you are confident, sometimes you're not. It's something that kind of like goes on and off. And so just having a goal based on I want to be successful or I want to be confident doesn't mean a lot of things when it comes to setting a goal. And so those are evolutionary goals, meaning that it's about how can we make sure that we are putting milestones on those goals instead of being like, this is the end goal. Just like when someone says, my goal is to be happy, well, respectfully, but being happy is not a goal, because happiness is an emotion, and an emotion is not meant to stay. It's not meant to be something that you're always going to feel. And so it's all about what are you going to be feeling inside. And so sometimes it's just in the moments. Like, maybe it's I want to feel fulfilled at work or when I'm doing this specific thing. It's about milestoning those kind of goals. Like, I want to be happy. Yes, but it doesn't mean anything. When do you want to be happy? Why do you want to be happy? And knowing that you're not going to be happy every single day and every single time, but what will actually emphasize this happiness and make sure that this is kind of your base, that when you are, at home and stuff, you feel fulfilled and you feel content and you feel all that stuff. Like, there's a lot of emotions that you're going to get, but how can we make sure that those are emotions that you are actually integrating into your daily life and that you are feeling them and nurturing them? Because happiness and all those emotions and whatever emotion it is nurtured. Just like sadness is something that you can nurture. When you are grieving someone, and that it can get kind of tricky for some people, and that they stay in this state of grief, because grief kind of never goes away for some people, and this is how they live. Some people are very happy when they are grieving because this is how they live their grief, because they are nurturing those happy moments. They are nurturing this happy feeling of, I'm glad I lived with you and I'm glad I've known you. This is what they are thinking and feeling, and this is what they think, and this is them. But for some other people, they are more inclined to actually nurture more of this, I'm unhappy and I feel very sad and very frustrated or very angry, and so they're going to nurture those feelings and emotions without even realizing it sometimes. And sometimes it's just because this is how they are able to just live their grief, and I don't think that this is a bad thing too. And again, I'm not a counselor and I'm not a therapist, so you should always see a therapist or ask advice to therapists for those kind of things. But this is just how I see things, okay? This is different. But when it comes to goal setting, it's more about how can we nurture the things and the emotions that we want now, instead of always being like, I will feel X, Y, and Z when I get there. This is something that I always mention because it's one of the most important things that I've learned throughout my career and throughout my life, is that all of those emotions that you think you're going to have when you get what you want may not happen unless you've been able to nurture and feed yourself with those emotions and with those thoughts and with those, identities that allows you to completely be present when this happens. And so when we are navigating, it's important to, focus on the process. I'm someone who focuses way more on the process and the mini milestones rather than the goal in itself that I know is going to happen but will change and evolve. So I just focus on the little milestones that we can actually set, so that we know where we're going, where we're heading, what is this and what is that, and how is it connected to us, and how is it connected to our values and our bigger goal and all that stuff. And so instead of having this big goal of like, yeah, I want to be confident, it doesn't mean anything being confident, because unless you actually know what it feels like to be confident, you're not going to be able to set a right goal about what confidence is. And confidence comes differently for people. Sometimes it's, again, and as I said in other videos, it's just like confidence is so different for everyone. Like, it's so different based on the situations you're in. It's so different. Like, you could be, as I said before, but you could be confident because you're writing a book and you're very good at it, but you can be not confident about promoting that book, and this is the difference. But I don't want to depend on a result. I don't want my life and my emotions to depend on a result, but I want these results because I get to. There's a difference between I get to have this goal and so I'm going for it, and I need this goal, and if I don't have this goal, then it means that I'm shit. This is when you kind of lose yourself and you kind of become someone you weren't supposed to become, or you didn't want to become, because you've lost yourself to a goal. And I think that's what we don't want, to lose ourselves, because once we lose ourselves, we lose touch with reality and with what we want and with our values. And this is when we become a whole different person that isn't connected to us. And we are like, well, who am I? I don't know who I am. And, it happens a lot in those kind of spheres where you have a lot of goal settings. And when you have to become a certain identity or become someone, it's easy to lose your identity and to to kind of tie your worth to who you're supposed to be, or this goal and what you're achieving, and I'm achieving this and I'm achieving that, and this is why I'm better than everyone, and this is why I am going to go bigger than everyone because I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and all my worth is based on what I'm doing and the results that I'm getting. And as soon as something doesn't happen exactly how it was supposed to be, then it's like, oh no, I suck, oh no, everyone hates me and all that stuff, and it becomes this whole new identity of spiraling into dear bliss and feeling like shit. When this entire journey becomes this external validation thing, you're not chasing a goal anymore, but you are actually chasing a proof for your worth and for you living the life that you want to live. And so your self-perception is always tied to someone else giving you that goal, or to something else, and to you achieving the results or not, and in what amount of time. Because this is the thing about goal, and this is why goal setting is tricky when it comes to getting your results and feeling good about them. It's just because we don't really always know when a goal is going to happen, and we don't always control when a goal is going to happen. And so this is the most frustrating part, that is going to, that if you're tied, and if your worth is tied to when you're going to achieve that goal, then of course your mood is always going to be inconsistent, and you're always going to feel like a failure. Is what you perceive that this goal is going to give you, who you're going to become because of this goal, and how you're going to evolve because of this goal, and whatever. And this perception that you have is kind of like the thing that is going to dictate how you're going to approach this goal and how you're going to get to this goal. And so at the end, it's about conviction. For me, it's always about conviction. It's about being convicted that all the actions you're taking, no matter how good or not they are leading you to that goal, because you're just so set on that goal that this is going to happen no matter what. And this is based on the RIS, reticular activating system, that allows you to be really focused, that is truly, important for your brain. So this is why a lot of people believe in the law of attraction. It's not just about, the universe or force, but it's really about what you focus on amplifies because of your brain. Your brain is made to focus on literally what's important for you. And so if what's important for you right now is safety, it's going to make sure that everything in your life is about safety. If what you want is, and the priority is really about nurturing and evolving, this is what it's going to be focusing more about. And so it's about giving clues to your brain about how you're able to achieve what you want and who you're able to be while you are achieving that goal. Manifestation is a tool, just like science can be a tool, just like goal setting can be a tool, and it doesn't have to be a tool, whatever. It's all about understanding what is behind a goal and why we can be more efficient than others, or why we can be more efficient to some goals and not to other goals. This becomes a way of living and a way of how can I navigate the highs and the lows that I'm going to live through actually getting there. And a question that I like to ask myself, and I like to ask the people that I work with, is what would be the signs that show that I'm evolving and moving forward? Because if you're only focused on one end goal, it's going to be tricky, as I said. And so you have to get milestones, or you get to have milestones that allows you to truly understand, how am I going to evolve through this goal? How am I going to know when I still am connected to the goal, or when I'm actually losing touch of the goal and I'm getting to somewhere I don't need to go? And so sometimes we need to define our goals not as end destinations, but as evolutionary goals, as goals that evolves with time, with what we learn, with what we know, with who we are, with what we achieve, because then we are able to also keep going on that goal. Sometimes people think like, that there's this line, and that they have where they are now, where they want to go, but there's a lot of different milestones in between those things. But even after, like, you get to still extend that goal and being like, okay, now that I've made that goal, how can I extend it? Instead of being like, I need another goal, like a new goal that doesn't have anything to do with it. How about I extend that goal? Like, maybe I want another one of a big movie hit. Maybe I want a different type of big movie hit. Maybe I want this or that or whatever. But it gets to be just this extension of that goal. And sometimes it gets to be like, I want to do pottery and not be a big movie star anymore. I want to be both. It's about detaching from the outcome, but not from the experience. And what you want doesn't always need to complete you. Sometimes it can just be, I want to experiment it and I want to experience this. A milestone in like a stone that you're collecting. Like, I love this idea of, I have so many projects and so many things that I want to achieve in life, and it's just stones that I want to collect. Like, it's just, I want to collect more gems, and I want to collect more experiences and more experimenting, new outcomes and new possibilities and all that stuff. And I just want to collect them. And it doesn't need to always have an end date, and it doesn't always have to have like all this pressure. It can just be like, I want to collect all those things and do all those things because I just want to have fun doing it. Of course, you will have goals that are like more about performance, and so of course you're going to have moments where it's not like easy and it's not, you know, fun. Like as an example, if you have a goal to win a medal, like you are an athlete, of course it's not going to be fun to train every single day. Sometimes you're going to have so much fun training. Sometimes it's going to be like a pain in the ass because you don't want to wake up and you don't want to do this, and you feel like, you know, you're taking your body to extreme performances sometimes, and so it's hard. And sometimes you also get to not have performances goals and just being like, I want to do something fun, and I want to do something that doesn't have anything to do with me being a performer or me being, you know, good at what I do or me being, you know, the expert or whatever. Sometimes it's just like, I want to do this because I like it. As an example, this, I'm not into a performance goal, even though I still have, you know, this openness about the possibilities that could happen, but I'm doing it because I'm having fun doing it. And it's because I've always loved videos and I've always loved sharing my journey and sharing what I know and my knowledge and my work with people, but it's just the best way for me to do it. And I could have done it in different ways, but this is what's fun for me right now, and I want to keep it that way. And sometimes it's going to become these performance things, and maybe it's going to become both, but I don't feel anything because of statistics. I don't feel like my worth is tied to it being something very performative, and this is how I live right now. This is what I do. But at the end, I also have my work that is more about performance, but it's not really about the performance of all the money that I'm making, all that stuff. It's not something that I'm very about right now. I don't have goals like that right now. I used to have, I don't, because right now what I'm focusing on, reconstruction of it and actually making sure that my clients do get the performance. This is the important part. You have a lot of different ways of actually getting to a goal that doesn't have to be about numbers or validation, like external validation. Like the more I have goals that are tied to my values and who I am and who I trust myself to be and the conviction that I have about me and about what I'm capable of or whatever, I don't care. I'm just like, I'm doing it and I'm going for it no matter what, because I'm convinced that I have the ability to get back up if I need to fail. Like I don't care because I'm just good at getting back up because I've been going through this a lot. And so I'm not scared anymore because I've been through a lot. But again, there will be moments where I will be like maybe shitting my pants and be like, oh, I never experienced this kind of setback and now this sucks and now I feel bad and all that stuff. But this is what I mean. Like I'm confident about my ability to do things and I'm convinced in who I am. But at the end, there will be things that I will be like, oh, I'm not confident at all. And right now I'm not feeling good about this, you know? And this is just, I'm letting life be and I'm letting myself evolve. And this is where sometimes a milestone is just, I know that I'd be there when I will feel extremely good about just talking to the camera, when I will feel, you know, just chill and being able to have a conversation instead of being like, oh, what do I have to say? And how do I say this? Like, it's just, it flows. And this is when I know that I'm at a good spot and that my milestone is done. And now I can get to the other milestone. And sometimes you don't always have to have a milestone. You just have to have a direction. Sometimes it doesn't need to be very specific for some people because they have conviction about how they're able to go without having specific things. And they are better with like a direction, like a guidance, like, okay, where do I want to go? Like, what do I feel like? Where do I want to guide myself? Like sometimes it's just this, like, what do I want right now? Who do I want to be right now? Sometimes it's not about in 10 years, in 5 years. Sometimes it's just right now and what's next. And sometimes it's just, okay, I don't want to know what's next. Sometimes I just want to be in the present moment and just experiment life. And that's fine. Sometimes it's, I want to actually know exactly what's next and what's next after that. And for 5 years, I want to know. Those are what goal setting is for me. It's about understanding the type of goal setter you are and that there's different ways of goal setting, which is a great thing. And so you don't always have to follow people telling you this is how you should goal set and do this and write it down and all that stuff and be hyper specific when you're just not this type of goal setter. And so I think that we don't need to lose time in always researching for the best strategy, the perfect solution, the ultimate method, and the exact path that we should be on and all that stuff. And it's just about how about we experiment, we actually go after it, and we're figuring it out sometimes as we go. And this is when I say sometimes you're not going to have a full perfect plan, but you're going to let it uncover itself because you're just moving. This is when you get to be convinced about your actions and the way that you move. It's just, I'm doing it anyway. I don't know if it's going to work out, but I'm just doing it. Like trusting myself. This is the kind of trust that I have in myself. It's how can I make sure that I just go with it and trust myself that I'm going to find out and figure it out as I go. And sometimes it takes a long time for you to figure it out and be like, oh, this is why. And sometimes it doesn't, and this is fine too. Because the more you cling to a certain version of success and a single version of success and a single version of this is what it means to achieve what I want, the more you're going to second guess yourself because you're going like, I need to find the exact perfect way, and if I miss on this one, I'm going to lose it all, when it's not the case most of the time. And so this is when you get to create space for opportunities. Sometimes you're like, this is exactly what I want and I'm going to get it exactly how I want it, and this works out, and sometimes it doesn't, and this is exactly what you actually wanted, but you didn't know it yet because you haven't been able to experiment it before. And so now that you are experimenting it, you're like, oh, this is what I truly wanted. But because you gave yourself the opportunity to just let it go and and seize opportunities that you would have never done if it wasn't for letting go and actually trusting, then you would have never been able to experiment it and being able to know exactly what it is that you want now. And this is the difference. And so, yeah, thank you for watching. I hope that this video was interesting, that you've learned something from it, that it helped, or that you just enjoyed watching it. And so, yeah, make sure to subscribe, like, share, do whatever you want with it. And I will see you in another video